Last time on Guns and Glitter, Grace went to the Devil's Wall, a rougher part of town, where she thought she could try to sell some drugs. Instead, she ran into Ben, a paranoid homeless man who refused to leave her alone. Welcome to CC Writes. My name is CC Lepki, and today I'm sharing part 16 of my YouTube novel, Guns and Glitter. She rolled her eyes. The man grinned and stuffed his hands into his pockets. "You're a real cutie pie, anyone ever tell you that? Way too easy to tease." "Fantastic." She crossed her arms across her chest and sighed. "If you don't mind, I'm trying to get some work done." "Are you a prostitute?" "Can you not?" The man laughed outright. "Sorry, sweetheart. I'm just trying to figure out what brings you here." He watched her for a few more moments, then shook his head. "Well, if you're not buying, then you're selling. Let me tell you, this is a bad place to be selling anything. You'd be better off in the posh part of town. Lots of people there want things they shouldn't have." He waggled his eyebrows. "I should know. That's how I ended up here." "You were rich?" "Once upon a time. Alcohol did me in first. Drugs wiped me clean. Wife took everything, and now I'm here." "What kind of drugs?" Grace couldn't help but get curious. It was possible that he had valuable information that would help her get started. "Designer stuff at first. Then whatever I could get my hands on. I quit a few months back, but it's too late for me now. Doctor says I probably got less than a year to live. Go figure." "What about cocaine?" Grace reached into her purse and pulled out a small packet. "Did you ever use this?" The man froze. His eyes clung to the packet greedily. "Honey, I haven't been able to afford that in a long time. Besides, I said I quit." The way he licked his lips spoke of a deep yearning. It was wrong to play on someone's addiction. But isn't that what the business of selling drugs was all about? "I just need some information." She placed the packet in his hand. "If you're willing to help, that is." "I've been sober for 3 months, miss." "You said you were dying anyway. Why not die happy?" His fingers closed slowly around the packet. "What do you need to know?" "Just a few things. Let's talk." Cocaine, according to Benjamin, the homeless engineer, was a fairly expensive drug that was usually sold in very small quantities. Apparently, the bricks were considered dealer amounts and could be purchased for fairly cheap, though Benjamin didn't know where she could find that amount. The dime bags were sold at a much higher rate, sometimes for upwards of $200. Methamphetamine and heroin were much cheaper, so it could be sold in poor communities like the Devil's Wall without a problem. Cocaine was a rich man's drug. If she wanted to push it, she needed to go to the nicer neighborhoods, colleges, and business district. Benjamin accompanied her to the business district to scope out clients. He had a good eye for what to look for in a businessman looking to score. Before long, Grace was able to hook her first client. The man was a 30-year-old frat boy with a cocky smile and slightly thinning hair. He wasn't the sort of person she would normally look for as an ideal client. But it was her first sale and she needed to make it work. "How about I give you $50 for it and we'll call it a night?" He smiled pleasantly. "This is 10 grams. You'll pay $200 or it's no deal." His attitude automatically soured her. What was it with people trying to shortchange everyone? "Oh, please. It's probably crushed up aspirin or something. I'm being nice. This amount won't even last through a party. Not my problem. It costs what it costs. Take it or leave it. She tapped her foot on the ground. Benjamin grinned and made faces behind the businessman's back. I could call the police, you know. Tell them what kind of scam you're running. Or you could pay me the correct price and stop being a prat about it. She raised an eyebrow. $200 or I walk. Why are you being such a bitch about it? The man's whine grated on her ears. She rolled her eyes and turned to walk away, but he grabbed her arm and kept her from going. Fine, fine. $150. Grace glared. He looked down at his feet, then reached for his wallet and pulled out a stack of cash. Grace counted it before she handed the drugs over. This stuff better be good. Just go. She shooed him away and stuffed the money into her purse. The man disappeared around the corner as she leaned against the dumpster. Benjamin leaned next to her. Are they all so stupid? Everyone wants to feel like they're coming out the other side a winner. Benjamin's leg bounced energetically against the ground. He hadn't sat still for the last 10 minutes. It was obvious why. His pupils were dilated, and a fine white powder clung to the edge of one nostril. Should we go find another one? Yeah, let's go. They walked out of the alley and headed back toward one of the main roads through the city. Cars streamed by, honking and cutting across lanes with the speed and disregard for human life that meant they drove the same roads every day. Pedestrians crossed the roads regardless of traffic signals with a similar disinterest for the welfare of others. Grace's eyes tracked the progress of a woman who dragged a toddler into the middle of traffic by his elbow as cars screeched to a halt and blared their horns. The woman flipped off a driver and screamed as if it was his fault that he almost ran over her and her child. Grace shook her head at the farce and started to turn a corner, but Benjamin pulled her back. You don't want to go that way. Might run into Frankie's crew. Frankie? Grace stopped walking. Benjamin shrugged and pulled her toward a different direction. Avoid him if you can. He's a brutal bastard. Nearly kicked my teeth in once upon a time. A few years ago he was nobody. And now? Now we avoid Frankie. Benjamin shivered, but didn't elaborate. Grace allowed him to tow her along down a slightly less populous path that Frankie apparently cared less about. They stationed themselves near a fountain in Angelica Square, a small business park with mom-and-pop storefronts and niche boutiques. Next to the square was one of the smallest parks in the city, where poor families and volunteers tended to a community garden. Grace sat at the edge of the fountain and looked around, trying to decipher Benjamin's method of picking clients. The older man stood near the fountain and stretched. Every so often he caught someone's eye and nodded or whispered out of the corner of his mouth to a passing stranger. After a few minutes, a young man in ripped jeans and a thin hoodie nodded back and shook hands with Benjamin as if they were old friends. Benjamin glanced back at Grace, then looked around the square. His eyes lit on the security cameras that hung around the square. Grace stood up and slowly meandered to the community garden. There were cameras near the garden, but the fence near the entrance blocked the view of any interlopers. She took her time peeking around the garden until Benjamin and his new friend appeared in the gate. Benjamin nodded quietly to her, and the three of them stepped up close to the fence to talk. The young man looked nervous. I've never done this before. Are you sure this place is safe? Safe enough. Grace dug into her purse. How much do you want? Start him off with one. Kid says he's never done it before. Benjamin chuckled. Boy, are you in for a ride. Is it really that good? The young man shifted from foot to foot. Tried it myself earlier. It's good, trust me. The old man let out a laugh that shook. He wiped his nose and went back to bouncing his leg frenetically. I don't see too many female dealers. His eyes swiveled across the garden. Grace stopped digging around in her purse. She looked up with a small smile. Dealer? What do you mean? She handed him a single tablet of aspirin. There you go. I hope your headache goes away soon. Without another word, she swung her purse back over her shoulder and started to walk away. Thanks for watching CC Writes. I hope you enjoyed your time with me today. If you'd like to check out more of my work, you can find my books on Amazon.com. There's a link in the description below. You can also find me on Twitter at @CCLepkiWrites. If you'd like to show your support and get some fun extra content, then check out my Patreon page where I share extended cuts of my videos, monthly vlogs, and pages from my personal notebook. Finally, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification button so you'll know when the next video comes out. See you later!